This text from the Gospel of Luke cracks me up. When I read it, you might also think, that seems funny. And it is. So feel free, during the reading of the Gospel, to be a human being and be curious and even to laugh if you want to. Some Sadducees, super strict, by the book. If it's not in the first 5 books of the Bible, called the Law, the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, doesn't count. So understand just the second word. Some Sadducees, some super uptight, by the book religious folk. Those who say there is no resurrection, because the word's not used there, came to Jesus and asked him a question. They didn't ask him a question. It may have been an interrogatory, but they were testing him because they wanted to catch him in a snare. Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married and died childless. Then the second and the third married her. So in the same way, all 7 died childless. It just cracks me up how the church will read a text and say, but no one says, huh? Really. I hate to be a curious one. Finally, the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? Who gets stuck with her for eternity? For the 7 have married her. Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead. Not the immortality, but the resurrection body of the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. I think that's the place that it says don't sweat it. Indeed, they can't die anymore because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed. Here's the proof. The fact that the dead are raised, Moses proved it. Old Testament, Sadducees, you wanted an answer? You got your answer, and here it is. Moses proves it, because in the story about the bush, burning bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, as the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, means now he is God not of the dead, but of the living. The Sadducees asked the tough question, and he used what they knew best to answer it. That's the lesson for the church today. When someone has a question, don't try and hyperinflate it. Don't try and be hyper-spiritual. Don't try and be, oh, I know the Bible better than you kind of arrogance. But use what you believe to be their level to work with them and to understand it. Don't push them away. Draw them in. Be sensitive enough. You might know what the eschatological charisma is. You may understand that God is the teleological potentate. But to use that kind of language only makes sense if you're a Presbyterian. That's supposed to be funny. Okay, it didn't. That's actually, if there is good news, then the good news is right there. That's why that's the gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. So I was a little bit of reading the gospel and a sermon at the same time. Let me give one more example. I'm going to dive right into it. This will not be a long sermon, and it really actually won't, because I got a lot of other things I want to accomplish. What's the chance, raise your hand and be honest about this, what's the chance that I will never, ever, ever be able to do what you saw Miles do. Pretty high, right? Not, pretty high. So I'll get to here. But what's the chance that I can have just as much discipline, just as much character building, just as much fun? Pretty high. And I do. I actually do have fun. Now, I don't spend a lot of time. I see Mr. Ellickson for maybe an hour a week. And then I practice a little bit at home, and I practice a little bit in my office, and I learn what I have to learn academically. Maddie, Chung Ji, 19 moves. Literally means, I practice it so much in the office that Maddie knows it. And she doesn't go to Ellickson's. And she learned it faster than I did. And the whole routine, Tatum learned it in 2 times, and it took me 3 months. What do you think the faith is? What do you think growing in a knowledge of the Bible is? Some people read slower than others. Some people read fast, but they don't learn anything. Some people say, I just read the whole Bible in a year, and I think that's great. Tell me what you learned in it. I have no idea. I learned that I can do something daily. I learned that I can be disciplined. All right, what's the next step? How about take it and do it in a 2-year period, but read something one day and think about it and pray about it the next day. Then read the next part and think about it and pray about it the next day. There's a way that we, the church, we, this congregation, can deepen our faith if we work together as a team. Teams are pretty hard to find. Team philosophy is pretty hard to find. Division I sports, trust me when I say to you, it doesn't always look like it really is. It might look like they're playing as a team, and the reality is it's a bunch of individuals that are very, very capable, and they may win the game, but they don't even feel like it's a team. You know when you're in a room. You know when you're around a table. You know when you're at a funeral. You know when you're at a wedding. You know that when you're in a baptism, you got a team with you, right? And I would suggest, and this probably is unfair for me to say this publicly, but the best parent your husband can be to this child is golf as much as you can. Because there are great lessons to be learned on a golf course. I'm just messing with you. Get behind me, Satan, right? No. The teamwork that our congregation is working on is one that comes with authenticity. When you're in a worship service here and it clicks, do you ever notice how it's not perfect? It's just not perfect. It's where'd he go? Where's Sam? So he's over here. I was like, see? It's like it's not there. We don't prepare a lot, but we know the flow of each other. Do you see that in the text today? Do you see, even in the challenges today that we read in the 20th chapter of Luke, that is a stewardship sermon? Now, today's a stewardship day. And every good pastor can figure out, and even a bad pastor can figure out how to turn anything into a stewardship message. But let me see if this one's actually effective. Consistent with our beliefs that stewardship is everything you do after you say yes to Jesus. Stewardship is everything you do after you say yes to Jesus. See, I think that stewardship is caring for all the resources that we have, not just for this moment. I'm attentive as I near retirement. I'm attentive to where's the money going to come from after I don't come to the office any longer. What's going to happen? I'm very attentive to that planning. And it's a pre-planning and a planning, and it's going to take a couple years to get there. But what about planning for after this earthly life? Well, just make sure you have in the will that the kids get everything and they just split it up among themselves. But what if that's not what you want to do? What if what you want to do is plan what you want the kids to do with anything that you might have accumulated, including whatever debt you might have or any obligations you have? What if the planning begins now. And my belief is this: if you work now to practice your death, if you plan your death now, if you get comfortable with your mortality now, you will live a much fuller life. I got a couple financial planners that are in this room right now, and I'd be willing to bet, without having any conversation with them, the best clients they have are the ones that are thinking beyond the end game. And when they have that person in front of them, they know they've got a winner and someone that's going to not only work with them, but make the job not only easier, but more pleasurable, fun, because it's exciting to see the metrics, the goals met along the way. You figure out how you want to do it. Your kids went to school, they made it to first grade, and by the time they hit whatever grade around here things shift, 5th grade, 6th grade, and they move on to the next, they fly up to middle school, then they fly up to high school, then they fly the coop hopefully, and a lot of times they fly the coop and then they come back because there's something in their lives that returns them to their base. What if we thought like that? Individually and corporately. What if we thought about our perpetual care? I mean, I know the day I die, I'm to be cremated. My ashes will be spread over Margaret's Reef on the Florida Keys. I know where the dollars and cents will go. I have this planned out, so I know, all right, I'm dead. You know what that does? It frees me up to live. It frees me up to not be afraid of what's next. And if you are afraid of what's next, you know how cool it is when you sit down with someone and they support you in your fear, and they support you when you're anxious, and they support you when you're angry and upset. When you don't want your spouse to talk, you ask a question, but it's rhetorical. You don't want them to respond. The last thing you want them to do is tell you what you don't want to hear them say. Correct? Any of you ever have that kind of conversation? Really, no one's going to go there. Do you really think every time I ask Jean a question, I really want her honest answer? Hey, do you think I did a bad job? No, you didn't. Did that sermon come out well? Oh, yeah, it was just fine. Do you know what just fine means? You bombed. Do you really want to go before the throne of grace, before God, and say, God, how'd I do? Oh, you were fantastic. Yeah, but. There's a freedom in being a good steward of your life, but there's greater freedom when you know your life is just a part of you. When you know this living life, this earthly life, is just a part. Sue Grove, it's unfair for me to say, but your dad isn't gone in your mind. And even when your dad was physically breathing, when you were at home and dad was up in Kutztown, the only thing you could do is think of him anyway, right? So your dad, where does your dad reside? In your head, in your heart, in the soulish part of your being. What if we did that exact same thing for ourselves right now? Right now. There's a higher purpose. And the Sadducees were focused on the earthly purpose, and Jesus took them to the higher purpose. Because who's the ultimate owner of those brothers and that woman? Who's the ultimate owner of those human beings? The answer obviously is God. So, of our human time, talents, and resources, are we being good stewards of our time, talent, and resources? Are we saying yes to saying no? Can you say yes to saying, no, I don't have time to do this because it wouldn't be a good stewarding of my time? Your talent. There are certain people that if they come to me and say, can you counsel me? Well, tell me what's going on. And I know that what the problem they bring to me, I am not going to steward my time. It won't be a good stewarding of my time to be their counselor. But why not? You're trained to do it. It's not a good stewarding of my time. I'm going to send them to that person. A good stewarding of my time is knowing the area where both match. It's knowing yourself. It's having insight into where your strengths really are and where they're really not. And a lot of wasted energy in congregations is having the wrong people in the wrong seats on the bus. But when you have the right people in the right seats on the bus, it's unbelievable what happens. Would you go on a youth retreat? Would you send your kid on a youth retreat where one of the talks is strategies dealing with anxiety? Now, I have not heard of any youth group, any place, and I've asked, are you guys talking about anxiety and strategies for dealing with it with your kids? No. We did that on our summer trip. We had a person that's credentialed and trained and specializes in it, and they were there. What about send your kid to summer camp, and they're going to learn about how to handle grief and loss and death? Would you send your kid to that? I'm suggesting that's your first go-to. So who was the teacher for that? Becky Shirey. She's trained in grief coaching. We bring the best we can possibly bring to what we do here at St. John's. When is the last time you sat in a pew here and you didn't say at some point, Pastor Bob, you're giving me a headache? And hopefully followed with, I needed to have that headache because I was stuck, and now at least there's some blood flowing. We had an ask a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks back, could we use space here to have a yoga class? Can you believe we actually had to call our insurance company to make sure that we could actually offer a bunch of little old ladies an opportunity to have a yoga class here? Doesn't that sound like a no-brainer to you? We actually had to check in with the insurance company to make sure we could do it. And I don't want just a bunch of little old ladies. I want the little old men around here. I do. That's the only way I'm going to get flexible enough to ever do a third of what Miles can do. But if I could do it, that's community. That's perpetual care. And how cool would it be for me to hang out with those people? The last time I tried it, it was with Missy Endy. It was with Missy Endy, Phyllis Kirshner at the Y. They had a water aerobics class. I couldn't finish the class. I was too tired to finish the class. And they're just crushing me. Do you think in this congregation, the people that have been here for 40, 50, 60 years know more about the Bible than have been here for 10 years? I'd like to say, of course they do. And our small groups have been so unintimidating that stuff, you don't have to be afraid to go to a small group here at St. John's. You do not have to be afraid because our small groups are not, I know more than you, and you're put down. There is none of that white male stuff that nobody wants to hear about because, oh, there's no privilege in being a white male. Oh, of course there isn't. That's just because, come on, really? I'd love to know your source. My source is Jesus Christ. And how did Jesus treat people? And I mean all people. He could have slam dunked the Sadducees. And what did he do? He gave them an answer. He gave them a chance for perpetual care. Stewardship here today, when you bring your card up and you put it face down in this box, it's not for me, and it's only partially for this congregation. It's all for you. Because part of the training in the way that a child should go is making decisions, choices. And this is a part of the choice that Jean and I have to together make so that when it goes in here, it's ours. And it's for us to live up to live into, to, if there's a crisis, to not be able to do what I thought I could do. There's a freedom in this, but it's supporting the things I've just said. It's supporting, can all people respect each other? Can all people respect each other? Can all people love each other? Can all people love God and love all people? If you're serving God, but you're not serving your neighbor, God doesn't need your service. God can figure out what God needs to do and can handle everything God can handle. And God can handle everything. If you're serving God, then there's fruit in your serving others. That's how you see it. That's how you know it. So, I think I've said enough.